Welcome back to this After Effects tutorial series. My name is Chad Jones, and in this series we are learning how to create the effects contained within this commercial.
I'm home. Hey, little buddy.
Okay, as you will recall, in the past tutorials we have covered making the chip particles. We've worked on our GoPro shot. Specifically, we made a mat of the dog, we overexposed the windows, and we worked on the crumbs on the crotch. Today we're going to be working on the dog's expressions, the little face-off between him and the main character, and it's going to look something like this. So what we're doing is we are making the dog squint, and we are making the dog smile. A subtle smile right before he goes in for the kill. So to start this tutorial off, what we'll do is we'll go back to our project. We will grab our raw footage. We will drag it down and make a new composition. And here we have our footage. So as you can see, the dog just stares straight into the camera. And just a little side note, to actually get him to do this, we had to tape a Dorito onto the front of the lens of the camera, and he paid stern attention to it until he actually went in and ate it. The dog now has an affinity for Doritos. Okay, so if you look at this footage, we'll just let it play for a second. I'm looking, we have a subtle, slight tilt up and pan to the left. It's not much, but it is enough to cause this effect to go wacky if we don't do something about that before we begin. And what we'll do is this. We'll use a camera tracking technique to stabilize the footage. And the idea is that we want these two areas, the two eyes, to stay perfectly still. We can live with the other areas of the frame moving around a bit, but we'd really need these two areas to maintain a stillness while the effect is being performed. So to do that, what we will do is highlight our footage, or make sure it is highlighted. We'll come over here to our camera tracker. If your camera tracker is not visible, you can always go to Window, Tracker. It goes away. Make sure that's highlighted to reveal the tracker. So we're going to stabilize motion in this part of the tutorial. So we'll click on stabilize motion, and we are concerned with the position of the footage. We're also concerned with the rotation of the footage. So we're going to select the rotation as well. And when we do that, you'll notice that two trackers appear. I'm going to scroll in on the footage, or I'm going to zoom in on the footage by using my scroll knob on my mouse, or scroll wheel I should say, and I grab the inside of the frame to move this around. Now I've experimented on this several times, and I found that the highlights of the eyes, he's not moving his eyes, he's staring straight into the camera, so that actually works. So I'm going to highlight. I'm going to put the tracking area around the highlight of the eyes. And again, the inside box is the area that it's going to track. The outside box is the area that it's going to search for the track. So I have these positioned here at the middle of the footage. I'm going to track forward. Then I'm going to come back to where I was. I'm going to track in reverse. Okay, that looks like a good track. Looks like The tracking markers are staying right where they need to be. That's good. What we'll do now is we will edit target, make sure that it is applied to our layer. We're going to apply that and click apply. The dimensions X and Y, yes, we do want that. And our footage is now tracked. So as we scroll through here, we'll notice a couple of things. First and foremost, there are many keyframes now in our footage. These are just values that the motion tracker has figured out, modifications that it's making along the way to keep our tracking position stable. But if you also notice around the edge of the frame, we have some areas of black, some black lines. What's happening there is that it's actually repositioning the overall frame of the image to keep these eyes right where they need to be. So I'm going to do a RAM preview, and we'll see that it is moving around just a bit to keep those eyes still. So what we're going to do is this. We need to do a pre-composition of our stink eye footage. We can easily do that by right-clicking and going pre-compose. And we'll just move all the attributes to the new composition. And now that we have that, key S for scale. Zoom in just a bit. And now we'll do another RAM preview. And it looks like we zoomed in enough. Oh, nope, I still see a bit of black on the edge there. We'll go into maybe 105%. RAM preview again. Looks like we are A-OK. All right, that is the first order of business. We now have a clean slate to work with. So what we'll do now is this. We will go to our effects. We're going to search for an effect called liquefy. It's a distortion effect. We're going to apply it right to our pre-comp. And so here is liquefy. Here's what it does. It basically takes the image and lets you modify it in a way that, much like a bulge or pincushion tool would in Photoshop, or a smear tool. The best way to show you this would just be for me to do something. So I'm going to take a twirl modification, and we will twirl the dog's nose. And as you can see, our doggy now has a twirled nose. These modifications are keyframeable in that you can animate them over time. So I can, the distortion percentage, I can take that down to 0, and I can go to 100 and past 100 all the way up to 200%. So now that is not what we're going to be doing in this tutorial, but wanted to show you that just to show you what this effect does. So we can push in, bulge out. Don't know what that one does. This is a wavy type effect. We have twirls to either side. That looks like a mirrored type effect. There's a clone stamp. Not sure what that one does. And this is a pincushion. So what we'll do is we'll start with our pincushion. Actually, we'll start by doing this. We'll delete that effect and we'll apply a new one. And we'll start with the pincushion. So, or we'll call that pucker. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Clone. If you'll notice here, if you click on them, you see what they do. This is a reflection. This is a shift pixel. And this is a reconstruction tool option. Okay, you learn something new every day. So we're going to go here to our pucker tool, much like a pincushion type effect. And we are going to look at the tool options. I played around with this before the tutorial began, and 70 is about a good brush size to start with. And what I'm going to do here is just try to get in the center of the eye and just press down a bit. And notice the eyeball starts to shrink. Maybe just a bit more. I'm going to stop there for a second. And let's look at this one. I'm going to come in just a bit. And you kind of find that this is a little bit of trial and error involved in this. So we'll try this again. That's a little better. Maybe just a bit more. Okay, now, and just to see what it will look like, I go down to 0% and back to 100%. Okay, that's a good first step. So I'm going to go back to exactly 100%. So you notice there's some subtlety going on with this eye squint that we're making the dog do. So we're going to try to replicate some of those subtle, muscle movements in this animation here. So what we'll do is we'll take the liquefy effect and apply it one more time. And this time, instead of using our pincushion or pucker tool, we'll use the warp tool. Similar to like a push effect. We'll bring this down to about 50. And what I'd like to do now is just try to shape the eyelids a bit in. Kind of just, you'll see that the eyes get smaller and then the eyelids go down to kind of follow that action. Bring that in, bring this side in and the top down. Maybe just a bit more right there. I'm going to use my scroll wheel to come in on the shot. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up and bring this up as well. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's try this side. Okay, that's not too bad. Now I will, so there's 0 and there's 100. 0 and 100. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just a quick animation with these two liquefy effects that I just put on here. So I'm going to start at about frame 4, and on my distortion percentage I'm going to click the 2 stopwatches, and I want to start at 0% on both. I'm going to come up to about frame number 9 or 10, and let's go up to 100% on each. Okay, so we're going to do a random preview here, and we'll see what happens. Okay, that's not too bad. It's not too bad. I think we can make it a little better, though. And here's what I propose. We need another subtle movement of the brow coming down to kind of accentuate that squint that the dog is doing. So we're going to grab our liquefy effect again, And again, we'll use the warp tool. And we can probably leave our brush at the default size. I'm going to use my scroll wheel to come in. You can press H on the keyboard to bring up the hand tool, and this will allow you to reposition your visual within your frame, so you can get a better idea of what you're doing. And your V tool will bring back your pointer tool. Excuse me, the V key will bring back the pointer tool. You can then select the tool you want again and continue. So we have these little areas of lighter fur that will be readily visible. So maybe we start here and just bring that down a bit. Bring that side down a bit, and maybe come in like that, and like that. So again, I'll come back. I'm looking here on my timeline. I come back to my previous keyframe that we've already set for the previous effect. And then I go and I click my distortion percentage. I'll bring it down to 0. I'm going to go up to my next keyframe for the other two liquify effects. I'm going to then bring that into 100, and now we'll see the effect of it. Okay, now that's not too bad. Maybe we just want to work on it a bit more. And that is, now this will be important that we go to the same keyframe that we were on when we're at 100%, so we can not set any additional keyframes in this process. So I select my pointer tool again, my warp tool. Maybe we just want to bring this side down just a little bit, and then this side down a little bit too. And again, we're just trying to do some of the subtle muscle movements in the face that you would see in a situation like this. You bring that down. Just now, that's probably too much. I'm going to undo that last movement. And let's do another RAM preview. So, let's stop the RAM preview. I think we're pretty good with our squint that we've made. Now the other little piece of this is that the dog actually smiles a bit in the shot. Probably get away without doing a smile, but you know, it was just kind of fun to make a dog smile, because you know, this is my dog, and I can tell you that he doesn't really smile in real life, so why not? So what I'll do is I'll grab the liquify effect, apply it one more time, and I'm going to grab my hand tool. So again, we're going to use the warp tool again for this. Now that brush size is probably too large to do this type of effect. So we'll go here to our tool options, bring this down to about 50. See what that looks like. Maybe 30. Okay, that's about where it needs to be. So we're going to want to make the sides of the mouth come up a bit, and maybe make his lips purse just a little bit, and the overall, I guess, meeting of his two lips be a little lower. I think that would look like a smile. What I'm doing here, I'm just checking the position of his lips as well, because we tracked the eyes to stabilize those. And the lips don't move that much, so I think we can probably get away with this. So, if you notice, there's a small rack focus as well in this shot, so just to point that out here. If you'll look at the beginning of the shot, the nose is in focus and the eyes are a little out of focus. At the end of the shot, the focus changes from the nose to the eyes. That was just a very subtle movement of the lens. But I think it kind of works. So you start on the nose, and then right when the squint happens, they come right into focus. So happens quickly, but yeah, every little bit helps. Okay, so I'm going to come right to when the nose is most in focus. That's right here. That'll be a good place to work so we can see exactly what we're doing. And let's grab our warp tool again. And let's see what we can do. We'll bring this out a little bit. Now, as we bring this out, you'll see that it's kind of grabbing everything along with it here. And we have something that we're trying to do, and that is sell the effect. And to do that, we got to think how these whiskers here would actually fall in real life. And they wouldn't really bend like that. So we need to kind of follow the movements that we create initially with other little modifications that allow these hairs to remain somewhat straight. And like say right here, that hair just bent. So let's do this just a bit to kind of straighten them out. They'd probably move a little bit, but not to the extent that we just moved them. I'm not 100% happy with this area right here. But let's see what it is looking like here in just a moment. I'll bring the bottom lip down just a tad. And let's bring the top lip down to match it. And with that, okay, so as you can see, is if we go up to 200%, it looks totally fake. At 0%, that's where we started. Maybe we'd want to go to about, I don't know, 70%. Even at 70%, I don't necessarily like it completely. But let's see if we can just work on it just a tad bit more. Okay, that helps a bit. Bring this area out just a little bit. We'll make it look a little bit more organic and natural. Okay, let's try that. Hey, that works to some degree. One other thing we have going for us on this shot, or with this shot, is that it's very fast. So, you know, most people when they watch this the first time, they don't catch the dog smiling. It's that third or fourth viewing. They see it, and they're like, oh, hey, he smiled a little bit. That's pretty cool. So that helps. So I'm just kind of tinkering right here. I just want to just mess with it just a tad bit more. And we'll I think I need to bring this out just a bit. The mouth seems to be moving too much in isolation. Which everything's connected together, so when one part moves, the other parts should follow to some degree. Okay, let's do our RAM preview and see what that looks like. But first we need to animate. So the idea is that we want him to squint and then smile. So squint, and then maybe around frame number 7, we will click our stopwatch, begin at 0%. We'll come up to maybe frame 13 or 14. And let's go to 80% to see what that looks like. Okay, we'll do our RAM preview. Yeah, that's kind of nice. If you notice, the whiskers kind of follow along with it. The only thing I'm not really believing is the little white behind the whiskers, but I don't know that it's on there long enough to really for someone to register. Maybe so. And let me come back to, I need to drill down into my effects. I need to be right on that keyframe, or I can just see it actually right here in the timeline. That's my ending keyframe in my animation. And I do that again just because I don't want to set more keyframes. Because if I were to come over here like at frame 16 and make a modification, as soon as I touch this effect in any way, if you'll notice, it makes a new keyframe. I don't want that. I want that keyframe and that keyframe alone to be my ending part of this animation. So here is the problem area, so maybe we just need to find a happy medium between whisker movements and white fur underneath. This is definitely a first world problem here. Okay, that's a bit better. We're getting a bit of bulging right here before that kind of took away from the effect. Now, if you'll notice here though, these whiskers are warping a little too much, so I'm just going to come and try to bring that area back just a tad, and let's see what that looks like now. Getting a bit of warp right there. Let's bring that back. And that back too. Let's look at this again. I think we would be done with this at this point. Not perfect, but funny nonetheless. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom back out, grab my hand tool, reposition my shot, and let's look at the entire animation again. One more RAM preview. So, I believe the beginning and the end position. What I'm not believing is the mechanicalness. Yes, that is a word now, mechanicalness of the animation. You know, if you squint your eyes or any other facial movement, you know, normally it doesn't end abruptly. Normally, if you squint, you'll start very quickly, but slow down at the end. And I think all of our keyframes need to do that. So we'll begin quickly with our animation, and we'll end slowly to where it'll just kind of ramp down and then end. To do that, we'll drill down into our effects, and we will expand all of these, where we can actually see and work with the keyframes. So I'm just going to take and move this up just so I can see all of the keyframes at once. And it looks like I'm looking at the entire animation here. Okay, so these are the beginning keyframes. These are the ending keyframes of the dog's eye animations. This is the beginning of the smile. This is the end of the smile. We're worried with the ending keyframes. So what I'll do is I will highlight these three keyframes, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and choose Easy Ease. And what that does, I will just kind of go here just so you can see. If I click on the graph editor, you can see that this is a graphical representation of one set of keyframes, beginning and end. So you'll see that if this is our first beginning keyframe, it starts off at a straight trajectory and comes up and then easily stops at the very end. We can modify that a bit to where it really, really slows down at the end. And let's do the same to our ending part of the smile. So I right click, I go to keyframe assistant, easy ease, and then while I have it highlighted, I go to my graphical editor, and again see the ease that it put in to the very end. And just accentuate that a bit more. I will turn off my graphic editor, come back and drag this down to where I can see my animation, and let's do a RAM preview now. So as you can see, they end more subtly. Okay, so that almost completes this shot. The final thing we'll want to do is just work on the overall look. So I look at this shot and I'm thinking, you know, it is maybe just a bit dark and it's a bit yellow. So I'm going to select a curves adjustment, drag this down onto my layer, and I'm just going to increase the overall exposure just a bit, not much. I'm really just worried about this area right here. This is the focal point of the shot. Again, you can off and on just to see your manipulation. That's not bad. From there, I need to take out a little bit of yellow. Blue is the opposite of yellow. I'll work with that channel. I will add some blue. I want to add just enough just to kind of take that yellow tinge out of the shot. I look at the white parts of the frame to see how I'm doing. So if you'll notice right here, like along the baseboard, that's where you can see it most. I want to make sure that that is nice and white. Okay, that's not bad. So that's before and after. Okay. The other part that I'm a little worried about is that the dog is overall, he's dark, and we have a lot of lighter values in the background. And typically your eye is drawn more to lighter areas than it is darker areas. So for this to work, I think we need to really accentuate this area right here and minimize the other areas of the shot. So to do that, I'm going to just select my layer, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and from there I'm going to go and right click, select blending modes, and then select multiply. Now I know what you're thinking, wow, that looks like you know what. Well, okay, yeah, it does. What we're going to do is we're going to create a vignette around the dog by first making the surrounding footage dark, and then we will select our mask tool, and I'm going to draw a shape around the dog's features that we want to accentuate. Maybe I want to move this around just a bit. That's probably pretty good. What I'll do now is I'll invert this mask and then turn off the highlight so you can see what we're doing. Okay, that's not bad. I need to feather it, make a nice soft edge. Okay, and now what we'll do is we'll take down the overall opacity of the shot. You can key in T to bring up opacity, and then I just want to kind of balance this out a bit, and I'll turn it off and on so we can see what we're doing. Okay, not bad. We'll do one final RAM preview. And there is our dog squinting and smiling. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Again, my name is Chad Jones. Come back next time. We will be covering the digital makeup that we applied to our actor and having lots of fun. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.